Hello everyone, I am Kanupriya Sharma, Verbal SME at e-GMAT, and I am here with this another flaw-based question for you. Now this question is very important because it will help you understand how well you are analyzing the passages. So let's get started. Please try to solve this question, pause the video to solve this question, and once you are done, you can resume video. Alright, so I'm assuming that you have solved this question. So let me share some interesting details. It is a flaw-based question from OG Advanced. The correct answer choice B is selected. It has been selected by almost 61% student. The trap answer choice here, which is choice C, has been selected by only 19% of the students. Now, what is interesting about this question? As I mentioned, this question will help you understand how well you are analyzing the passage. Now, the good thing about this question is that even if you are not very clear with passage understanding, you can get to the correct answer choice. Why? Because of this placement of answer choices. The correct answer choice here is choice B, and many of you, even if you are not clear with the passage completely, will say that okay, choice B is correct, and based on that feeling, you will be able to reject choice C. However, what you need to check here is whether you are rejecting choice C for the correct reason. Alright, you may have selected choice B, that is fine. However, in this question, it is very important to understand whether you are rejecting answer choices, rejecting the incorrect answer choices for the correct reasons. Alright, so this question has two traps. One is about the logic of the passage, and the second is regarding the identification of conclusion. So some students find it difficult to identify the conclusion as well. So let's see. Let's start solving the question. Alright, so you have already read the passage. Now the passage talks about contingency free system, which has been abbreviated as CFS. So as per CFS, there is an agreement between the lawyer and client, and the agreement is that the client will pay the lawyer's fee only if lawyer wins that case. Alright, so this is as per CFS. Now the non-CFS cases also exist. Some of you miss considering these cases. However, the cases in which no such agreement exists, that is, the client will have to pay the lawyer irrespective of the result, such cases also exist. How do you get to know it? When you read this sentence. Any medical malpractice case that they accept on a contingency free basis. So it shows that there are other cases also. However, for contingency fee basis cases, for CFS cases, the lawyers are doing something. You've already read it, but yeah. So this point is important to understand that both these cases coexist. So the argument is about a comparison between two scenarios. The first scenario is the one in which CFS and non-CFS, both kind of cases exist. Alright, which we discussed here. And the second scenario is the one in which CFS does not exist. Right. So the conclusion here is that CFS does not increase the number of medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors. So what does it mean? That when the first scenario in which CFS and non-CFS cases both exist, if this scenario is considered, then you will not see that this scenario has more number of such medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors compared to scenario 2. In order to understand it better, I have this representation for you. So scenario 1, in which CFS and non-CFS cases both exist. Let's see, we have a client, Mr. XYZ, who has some concern and he wants to approach the lawyer to file a lawsuit against a doctor. Now, all the lawsuits that we are discussing in our discussion are medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors. Alright, because our conclusion is specific to that. Therefore, I will be saying lawsuits, but it actually refers to the medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors. Alright, so Mr. XYZ wants to file a case and he approaches the lawyer. Right, so under CFS, he approaches the lawyer. Now we know that the lawyer may accept the case or may reject the case. So the lawyer decides, he takes his decision that he has to accept the case. In case the case is accepted, then the lawsuit is filed, otherwise it is rejected. Now in this case, we also have some non-CFS cases. right? So in scenario 1, the lawyers are getting CFS as well as non-CFS cases. For non-CFS cases, it has not been given that they are rejected, and we don't have any reason to say that they are also rejected. So we are considering that all non-CFS cases are considered, they are accepted, and lawsuits are filed. However, from the CFS thing, some of the cases are rejected. So let's say 50 got accepted, 20 were non-CFS, so 70 lawsuits were filed. The second scenario is in which Mr. XYZ again had that issue, but now this the option for CFS does not exist. Now 70 such cases were brought to the lawyer and 70 were accepted. So as per the conclusion, CFS, so scenario 1 basically, does not increase the medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors. Alright, does not increase means it remains the same, which is as per the example that I have used, or it may actually reduce. So even if it is 70 here and 50 here, then also the conclusion stands, right? It is just that it does not increase. So yeah, so it can decrease or it can stay constant, right? Now, some of you had issues identifying the conclusion here. You got confused because of the use of this word consequently here. Now, yes, it is a conclusion. It can be a conclusion marker. However, it's not just the word that you see. It's not that you see a conclusion marker and you straight away jump to saying that, you know, this is a conclusion. No, that is not the case. You have to understand what role it is playing here. What is the meaning that is being conveyed? So consequently word here is only used to show the cause and effect. It does not show the conclusion here. This consequently, it just presents the reason, the cause and effect, that why the doctors are able to why the lawyers are able to reject those cases. So it does not present the conclusion here, and if you got confused with conclusion identification here, then you are not understanding the passage properly, right? So this is a takeaway for you. You need to go by the meaning of the passage and not just by conclusion markers. That is one thing. The second thing is, I would just like to mention that although ABC test is not applicable here, but otherwise ABC test is also used to identify conclusions when we have two claims and we need to see that which one is the main conclusion. However, that is not the case here. So this is not a claim. The last sentence is not a claim, and therefore ABC test is not applicable. We don't need to apply it. Clearly, there is just one solution, and there's just one conclusion, and the conclusion is that the number of medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors the number of such lawsuits does not increase because of CFS. So this is the author's reasoning here. Now, it is very important to have one question here. The author has explained that why this number is not going up, because lawyers are rejecting these cases. You need to question yourself that why this number can go up. That understanding that part is very important, right? So the thing is, how can CFS increase the number of such cases? So if Mr. XYZ wants to file a lawsuit, and he is given two options. The first option, in which he has to pay lawyer's fee irrespective of the output, whether he wins the case or he loses the case. That is the first option. The second option is that pay the lawyer's fees only if you win the case. So it is very natural that in the first case, if 70 people are willing to file the lawsuit, they are willing to pay the lawyer's fees, then 100 people maybe will be willing to file the lawsuit here, because they don't have anything to lose. They will have to pay the fee only if they win the case, right? Otherwise they don't have to pay this fee, and so this number is expected to be higher if CFS is there. However, as we saw in our discussion in the author's reasoning, so let me go back to it actually. Yeah, so here we saw that, okay, this number can go up because of CFS. Yeah, this number can go up because of CFS. However, it is getting throttled here. The lawyers are rejecting some of these cases, and therefore the author is concluding that CFS does not lead to increase in number of such lawsuits. All right, so if this passage is completely clear, we can move to the pre-thinking part. And the thing is, here I have all these things. I took some time to explain this passage, this logic. However, you will not have to spend that much time. When I was solving this question, I did not draw all these things and write everything down. I just wrote what I needed. I just wrote something that with which the logic was clear to me. All this has been done to help everyone understand, right? When you do this passage analysis, you will not have to spend that much time here. All right. So with that disclaimer, let me move to the pre-thinking part. So let's start by understanding the conclusion. CFS does not increase the number of medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors. So the first thing to be noticed here is that we are talking specifically about CFS. We are not concerned with the non-CFS cases. We just want to see the impact of CFS on these cases. The second thing that I've already discussed, does not increase can mean decrease or stayed constant, right? It does not necessarily mean decrease. The third thing is the conclusion is very specific to the number of medical malpractice lawsuits brought against doctors. So any other kind of lawsuit, if there's any answer choice which is talking about any other kind of lawsuit, that is not relevant for this conclusion, right? So these are the three important aspects of the conclusion, and you need to understand all these aspects because this is required for one thing is the passage will be clear to you. Second thing is pre-thinking will be easy. Third thing is answer choice analysis will be very easy. All right, and we'll see that. So with that, let's come to the logic. We have already understood the logic that under CFS there's an agreement that the client will pay the lawyer's fee only if the lawyer wins that case, and the lawyers are actually selective while accepting CFS cases, right? Now, what is the assumption made by the author? In order to find the flaw, we need to find the assumption. So the assumption made by the author here is that the lawyers are rejecting sufficient cases to compensate for the increased number of cases under CFS, right? So let's say that all we know right now is that the lawyers, they rejected X number of cases, and because of that CFS cases were 50, non-CFS cases were 20, and therefore lawsuits filed were 70. All right. Now, what if they the number of cases that are being rejected, that is X, it is very less compared to what is required to compensate for the increase. Let's say we are getting additional 40 cases here because of CFS. We saw that CFS can increase the number of cases. So we are getting additional 40 cases here. However, the lawyers are rejecting only 20. So in that case, we will have 20 additional cases here, and the number of lawsuits filed will go up. So therefore, this is one of the assumptions made by the author. So based on that, the flaw is that the author does not consider the possibility that lawyers may be rejecting fewer cases than required to compensate for the increase in number of cases under CFS, right? So if you want, you can understand it again. The author is just happy with this number, that okay, some number is getting rejected, and therefore the total number will remain same. He is not considering the relationship between the number of cases that are going up and the number of cases that are being rejected, if there is if they are compensating for each other or not. He is not considering that. So with that, let's move to answer choice analysis. All right, so choice A, specify the criteria attorneys use to judge the merits of a medical malpractice case. So do we need to know the criteria? We are concerned with the number of cases, with the impact of CFS on the number of cases. Does the criteria make any difference even if we know it? No, it does not make any difference, because criteria will help us understand whether the correct cases are being rejected or not, whether the criteria is correct or not. But that is not what is required. We need to know the impact of CFS on the number of cases. All right, so choice A is incorrect. Choice B is actually the correct answer choice, and it is in line with our pre-thinking. So let's see how. So consider whether in the absence of a contingency fee option, even people with meritorious cases are much less likely to initiate litigation if they believe they might incur large legal fee. All right. So we are saying that in scenario 2, we know that 70 people are approaching the lawyers and 70 lawsuits are being filed. What if there are 60 people who have meritorious cases, that is, who have cases that will not get rejected by lawyers if they are brought under CFS? So what if so many people are there who are not approaching the lawyers because of that fear of the lawyer's fee? As soon as they get this option, the option for CFS, they will start approaching the lawyers, right? Because they don't have that fear of fee now. They will have to pay only if they win the case. So the additional cases here, if there are 100 cases and 80 of them are meritorious, right? If there are 80 cases that are meritorious and only 20 get rejected, plus there are non-CFS cases, then the total lawsuits filed will be 100. And this number will be greater than the number in scenario 2. So basically, if there are more people who have meritorious cases and they are actually increasing the number of cases that are being brought under CFS, then the lawyers may not be able to reject most of those cases, and therefore the author's reasoning that okay, sufficient number of cases are being rejected here and therefore number will not increase, that will not work. And that is the flaw in this passage. And this is in line with what we discussed in our pre-thinking also. So choice B is the correct answer choice. Coming to choice C, which is the most popular incorrect answer choice. So choice C talks about the monetary benefit after winning a CFS case versus the monetary benefit after winning a non-CFS case. Now, one thing is that we don't know that who will be getting this award, whether it is the client that will get the reward or it is the lawyer that will get the reward. However, I am assuming that in any case the lawyer will have a share in it. Whether the client gets it or the lawyer gets it, the lawyer will definitely have a share in it. So I will analyze this choice from lawyer's perspective. So essentially this choice talks about the lawyer's preference for a CFS case versus that for a non-CFS case, given the award that the lawyer can get. So is that preference relevant? Whether the lawyer will prefer a non-CFS case or a CFS case, is that relevant? No. The passage is about the number of cases filed in scenario 1 versus the number of cases filed in scenario 2. This choice talks about how many cases the lawyer will take from non-CFS, how many the lawyer will take from CFS. That is not relevant. Which one of CFS or non-CFS is preferable is not relevant, since this preference will not increase the number of cases. At max, if CFS is less profitable, then more cases will get rejected by the lawyer here. Alright, and the number of cases may actually reduce. But in general, this preference may not have any effect on the number of cases, because the concern of the argument is about these number of cases, the total number of lawsuits filed in scenario 1 versus scenario 2. So this most popular incorrect answer choice, it is actually irrelevant. So this is again, you need to understand that how much important it is to understand what the answer choice is saying and then understand its impact on the argument. Coming to choice D now. So this choice talks about the impact of CFS on lawsuits that are sought for reasons other than medical malpractice. However, as we discussed, the conclusion is specific to the number of medical malpractice lawsuits against doctors, and therefore this choice is not in the scope of this argument. So that is why I said that understanding the conclusion, all the aspects, is very important, because it was so easy to reject this answer choice. That we know that this is not in the scope. This is irrelevant for the conclusion, and therefore it is incorrect. Now choice E talks about the rising cost of medical malpractice insurance. We don't even know how this is going to impact the argument, right? We don't know whether it is rising, we don't know what impact it will have, and therefore this choice is irrelevant and is incorrect. So with this, let's come to our takeaways. Firstly, understanding and visualizing the argument is a key step in solving CR questions correctly. So I'm not sure how many of you are there, but I am sure that most of you would have seen that yes, there was some gap in passage understanding, and that gap in passage understanding actually made you reject or select the choices for incorrect reasons. So understanding and visualizing the argument is very important. Stick to it in for every question. Secondly, understand the choice completely before selecting or rejecting it. You should be confident of your reason for selecting or rejecting it. Third, be careful of choices that talk about out of scope factors, like choice D did here. If you have not understood the passage properly, then these choices will be like they will seem to be very attractive. You'll end up marking these answer choices, but actually these are out of scope answer choices, and you were not able to understand the passage. That is why you got tempted, right? So with these takeaways, I hope you will be able to apply all of them when you solve any other question. Happy learning.